Hello. I think I'm live. Hello, Monkey King. Monkey. We are chapter 109. What's up, Orb Editor? How are you doing? I hope you guys are doing well. I wanna see more of Force and Audrey. I can't wait. I'm 10 minutes early, but who cares, right? The earlier the better, like they say. Early bird gets the worm. I don't know what they say, but something like that. How many chapters? We'll see. We'll see how many we can do in like 2.5 hours. Until like, I guess 5 p.m. my time, which is 4 p.m. Central European time. So let's say 20 minutes per chapter. We can do like 8. Maybe 10. That's fate for people as well. Okay. So we met Madame Force last episode, War's Wall, and she has some kind of teleportation beyond her abilities, or at least she can walk through walls, right? And she asked Audrey to help her break out a friend from prison because Audrey has a lot of influence and she's rich. So let's see. Let's see if we're gonna go back to Backland or we're gonna wait until Klein is gonna do his stuff and maybe we're gonna go back later. Also, I'm still waiting for more scenes from Derek as well, because we had the first mention of Derek in chapter like 90 something, right? And I really got blue balled on Derek. I wanna see what happened to him. So let's jump into chapter 109. You already saw Force? Yeah, I read Force. I mean, I saw pictures of her as well on Discord. Madame Force Wall. I like Force. I wanna go back to I wanna go back to Backland. Seriously. Anyway, it would be funny if her what's it called again? Her Beyonder name is Door. That would be so funny, right? Because she can open a door through a wall. Anyway, deduction. If the music is too loud or too quiet, let me know. The sound of running footsteps enter Klein's ears, calming him down as he stood at the entrance of the guard room. Leonard arrived holding a revolver. He asked in a solemn voice, "What happened?" So yeah, there was a sealed artifact, also in donghua, that stared at Klein's soul last episode. Watching Leonard struggle to stop, Klein suddenly thought of something that Roseanne had mentioned in the past. 3 years ago, Leonard, who had just become sleepless, had tried to run down the flight of stairs despite not having adapted to the potion's power, causing him to fall and roll down. That's so legendary, bro. The gif is so funny. With a cough, Klein pointed at Chinese gate and said there was a knocking noise from the inside, which then became a loud slamming noise. The door was pushed open a little. Chinese gate was pushed open, the short Kenley asked in shock. Yes, a slit was open. Klein continued his description. He saw that Leonard, Kenley, and Royale had stopped approaching the card room, instead forming an arc formation a few steps away, loosely surrounding Klein. Wow, they have a formation ready to go. I like that. He paused for a moment before asking, are you suspicious of me? No, it isn't suspicion. This is protocol, Kenley shook his head. So, Klein thought it happens often, right? No. I think this is like one of the first times it has happened, and it's because Klein was there. Klein triggered the event on that puppet. In this tense atmosphere, Leonard maintained his flippant attitude, laughing as he added, there have been incidents like this in other churches. The Beyonder guarding the Chinese gate lost control and pulled the bell before killing 2 teammates who came to help. Wow, okay. Alright, Klein no longer felt angry and aggravated at being ostracized. Instead he asked, then how should I prove that I haven't lost control? Leonard wiped away his flippant smile. I think they can tell if you have lost control, by the way. Happy birthday, Crowish Pigeon. Oh my god. Happy birthday, dude. Leonard wiped away his flippant smile and tapped his chest 4 times. The hoarse voice. He recited softly. Lacking clothes and food, they have no shelter in the cold. They are drenched by rains and huddle around the rocks for lack of shelter. They are orphans snatched from the breast. Hope lost on them. They are bored that have been forced of the proper bath. The Evernight did not forsake them, but bestowed them with love. Okay, so he's doing his poem. I'm guessing to protect our formation because we don't know what's happening, right? The holy yet pitiful prayer, reverberated around the basement, making the bodies, hearts, and souls of everyone present feel purified and tranquil. Wow, thank you, Leonard. Seeing Klein not display any abnormal reactions, Leonard stopped his recital and smiled. There's no problem. You're still our trusted partner. So, sometimes you lose control, and you can't tell visually, right? That's what I think Klein was like worried. I guess, like, I mean, we know that Klein didn't lose control, but the others were worried about. If I'm lagging, let me know, by the way. I shouldn't be lagging, though. Madame Royale, who had been quiet all this time, looked at Chinese kid and asked, what did you see when the gate was pushed open? I saw a misfortune cloth puppet, the one wearing the black classic regal gown. 30625, Klein replied, still a little fearful, but 3 seconds later, a formless power pulled it back, and Chinese gate was closed once again. What's going on? Leonard Kenley and Royale exchanged looks. We are in the same boat as you. We don't know the true cause, but since Chinese gate is closed once again, and there's nothing unusual, we shouldn't enter it this time. We have to wait till dawn for the captain. Royale Galmi added, I will wait here and guard the gate with you. Alright. Leonard moved his hand and gave a bantering laugh. As the most powerful person here, I shall too. Kenley, return to the 2nd floor just in case the police department has an emergency case and cannot open the door. Kenley didn't say much, he just nodded immediately and left. Bro thinks he is the main character. Leonard glanced at Klein and Royale. Perhaps we continue our card game. It's best to have some sort of entertainment in circumstances like this to relax. No problem, Klein adjusted his revolver and put it back into his underarm holster. Royale didn't voice an opinion, but instead stroked her smooth black hair as she entered the guard room. 3 months, 5 weeks. Yeah, but that's crazy. I'm planning to finish it in a year. At the guard room while fighting the landlord. Good name. Fighting evil, Klein held his head casually. Misfortune, cloth puppet. I mean, 30625, according to the description, doesn't have any living traits. 3 aces. Leonard shoved his hand and replied with the same casual tone. In the past 40 years, 30625 hasn't displayed any lifelike characteristics. We can first assume this information is correct and make our assumption based on that. Pass. You already have an idea? Royala asked simply. As Klein hesitated to think about feather, he should throw his three deuces. That's a bad hand. Leonard took a sip of his freshly brewed coffee and said, yes, since 36, I don't know why I want to say 36, 30625 shouldn't have any lifelike characteristics, and its actions today must have been influenced by some other factor. This factor must also be rather recent, otherwise we wouldn't have observed this phenomenon a long time ago. So it's Klein. I wonder if it's... What part of Klein is it? Is it because Klein is a seer? I don't think so. Is it because Klein got transmigrated? Now, maybe it reacted to the gray fog, but I do think he still has the Antigonus notebook like sent to him somehow, and that affected him because I feel like Antigonus has a lot of things with puppets that I have like noticed. So but one thing for certain, I think it's Klein's presence that activated the 30625. Hello Lily, hello Luke. Has there been anything different about Chinese Gate over the last month? Well, I saw Klein toss his three deuces and pondered a few seconds. There's only one thing different. The Anticonus family notebook and the sealed artifact 2049 was stored behind Chinese Gate for a night. Oh, so it wasn't Klein. Okay, so it wasn't Klein. I guess it was still because of Klein. Leonard looked like... I thought the notebook wasn't stored in the Chinese Gate. Interesting. Everyone talks about Conus, but where is... Wait, do you know what Anticonus means, by the way? Anticonus means worthy of his father in Greek. Anticonus meaning. Yeah, comparable to his father or worthy of his father. And then Abraham, there was an Abraham family mentioned. And Abraham in Hebrew means father of many nations. Right? So I feel like there's a connection there. And I feel like Abraham might be like a... Like... Maybe a... What's the word again? Maybe Antigonus is descended of Abraham somehow. Anyway. Is the music loud enough or... Where's my music playlist? Here we go. Let's make it a little bit louder. Is this better, guys? Or is it too loud? Guys, you have an idea, or ask simply. The guard room. While playing Finding the Land... Oh, wait. Where am I? Oh. Leonard looked at the cards in his hand, and as he tapped the table, he said with a smile, if 2049 can make the misfortune cloth puppet act abnormally, then something similar should have happened behind Backland's Chinese Gate a long time ago. So I suspect that the problem lies with the Anticonus family notebook. Smart, that's what I thought too. Klein thought for a moment and nodded. That is the most likely explanation. Leonard, I never expected you to be this good at deduction. Typically speaking, being a romantic poet and person with excellent deductive skills was mutually exclusive. That's because he's recently into detective novels, Royale explained indifferently. 2 nights straight from 8 to King. Does no one want it? There's 6 and no more. Upon seeing this, Klein and Leonard felt silent. Having not been concentrating on the game, they forgot something important. Royale was the evil in this round, or the landlord, rather. Watching Royale cut the deck, Klein took the opportunity to ask, then what power pulled 30625 back? Leonard glanced at him and chuckled. Do you really think that the defensive mechanisms behind Chinese Gate only consists of the buried sealed chamber and a few elderly keepers? Ooh, interesting. In reality, when the sun gets fully, the keepers would have already left Chinese Gate and returned to St. Selena's Cathedral. The power in this gate is strongest at night and is no longer safe for any living creature. The power only weakens when the sun rises again. That is also why the captain asked us not to enter Johnny's gate, no matter what he's here. Interesting, okay. In other words, the captain had forgotten to tell me the reason. Klein thought for a bit before asking. Defensive mechanisms such as nexus formations, like magnified versions of amulets and charms. Yes, Royal nodded as she stroked the edge of her cards. There's a reason that Chinese gates are placed in the central cathedral of each city. The gate is maintained by the follower that go to these churches every day. Their sincere prayers allow a part of their spirituality to enter the nexus formations, and from a small contributions comes abundance. I see, Klein nodded as he saw that he had a lousy hand. So the other gates in other cathedrals are also called Chinese gates. By the followers that go, yeah, their sincere prayers a lot of, okay, gotcha. Up the music? Should I up the music? Better? At that moment, Leonard laughed and said, there isn't just one defensive mechanism behind Johnny's gate. Saint Selena's ashes are buried inside. She was high sequence beyond her when she was still alive. The ashes of Saint Selena, oh god, ashes of high sequence beyond her. Sacred ashes. What use do these have? Klein was puzzled as he was curious. I don't know what deadening means. Saint Selena was a devotee when the Church of Evernight was being established. She was active during the third epoch and her deeds were written in many holy scriptures. Thus, Saint Selena was a fairly common used name among the commoners who believed in the Nevernight goddess. Yeah, I understand that. But like Saint Selena's ashes as like actually her remaining, like her body was burned and turned to ashes. Interesting. Leonard seemed to read deafening. I think music is like having music is good. Leonard seemed to read Klein's mind as he continued. Rumors suggest that the skeleton or ashes of high sequence beyond her still contain incredible power. Of course, those are just rumors. Klein nodded, focusing his attention on the cards in his hand. There were no unusual incidents in Chinese gate for the next few hours, but Klein lost exactly 2 soli. It pained his art, but Leonard, who fully expressed his romantic poetic vibes while playing, lost 4 soli and 5 pence. Damn, leaving Royale as the undisputed winner. Nice. The sun has just risen. It's my turn. The quiet author, Madame C. Catron, entered the guard room at 6. Klein wrote the incident he encountered the previous night in the record book and returned to the Blackthorn Security Company with Leonard and Royale. He felt unusually exhausted, but the Midnight Poet and Seapless beside him remained energetic, of course, because they are both night dwellers. As in, they don't have to sleep much. This is a difference between the different sequences. Klein was just about to make his way past the platform partition and catch up on some sleep at home when he suddenly saw the captain enter. Good morning, Captain. He couldn't help but yawn when he greeted him. Dunn, who was in a black trench coat, took off his hat and looked at him with his grey eyes. Good morning. You should head back home for some rest. Did anything happen last night? Klein immediately gave a succinct summary of the incident regarding the misfortune cloth puppet and Leonard's deduction. Okay, Dunn didn't give his opinion. He concentrated on making his way to the office. I will send a telegraph to the Holy Cathedral. Very nonchalant about it, I think. Klein didn't say any longer. He slowly walked out of 36 Woodland Street and breathed the cool morning air. He felt a little more energized, suddenly remembering something he had forgotten all this time. I forgot to tell Captain the rest of the piece of paper in the misfortune cloth puppet's hand. Oh my god! Klein turned into Don Smith for a second there. How would I have forgotten? Don is rubbing off on you. If some power was influencing me, stopping me from telling him. Oh, telling this to enter to other Nighthawks. So it wasn't Klein forgetting. It has been some time since Andy Kono's family notebook was present at Chinese Gate. The misfortune. That's what I mean. Why did it happen the night after the notebook was removed? Why did it happen when Klein was there? So I think Klein still triggered the event. It has been some time since the Antico no Same notebook was present at Chinese Gate. The misfortune cloth puppet 30625 should have been affected long ago. Why didn't it only show abnormal behavior last night? Was it because it was the first time I was achieved at Chinese Gate? What's on the paper? It disappeared, right? It's used all its power to show me the picture on the paper. What is the motive of the Antico no Same notebook? Has it got to do with the survival despite making contact with it, and then they become a seer? Many suspicions flashed through Klein's brain, rooting him to the spot. He was unsure if he could pretend that he didn't remember anything and make his way home to sleep or head up to report it to the captain. Interesting. So I wonder what route Klein will go to. Is there something stopping Klein from telling Don Smith what happened, like, fully? Is he gonna go back? Like, now he remembered, right? What if he just forgot? Confirmation, okay. Interesting chapter. Very cool. I'm gonna read ahead. Before we do that though, I need to... I forgot to add it on chat. 1 second. Give me 30 seconds, guys. This music is a little bit goofy, no? Okay, I'm gonna add up in my Discord message and stuff. There we go. Confirmation. After thinking for a while, Klein decided to return home and to confirm something. He believed that if the misfortune puppet hadn't intentionally shown him the picture of the paper, then the captain and the rest will definitely find traces in their follow-up investigations. It won't matter much if they report it or not. If it were the converse, it was something worth careful consideration. It was also what Klein wanted to confirm. He took out the trackless public carriage to Daffodil Street. When he returned home, his brother Benson and sister Melissa had yet to wake up, since it was Sunday. The living room was dark and quiet. Klein boiled a kettle of water, threw in some tea leaves, and drank it with wheat bread. Then he took off his coat, hat, and cane towards the stairs. So, drinking tea before sleep, I don't know if it's a smart idea though. He subsequently lightened his footsteps to avoid making any loud noises. Just as he got to the second floor, he saw the bathroom door suddenly open, and Melissa, who was wearing an old dress, came out with a sleepy face. "You're home." Melissa was rubbing her eyes sleepily. Klein covered his mouth and yawned. "Yeah, I need to crash. Don't wake me up before lunch." Melissa tersely acknowledged when he suddenly recalled something. "Benson and I are going to St. Selena's cathedral praying and then mass in the morning. Lunch might be slightly later. Don't go, just in case." As not so devoted believers of the Evernight Goddess, she and Benson went to the church once a fortnight. Fortnight is 14 days, right? While Klein, who was Nighthawk, hadn't entered the church since the last time he was followed by the member of the Secret Order, yeah. "No. I'm at the cathedral every day, just that I'm in the cathedral's basement," Klein justified himself subconsciously. He was currently most worried that the goddess would abandon him as a fake believer if his ritualistic magic didn't respond at crucial times. He will be in big trouble. But then when one considers old Neil, the goddess is quite forgiving towards the Nighthawks. That's right, Klein comforted himself. Luke. The scattered thoughts flashed past him, and he looked at Melissa. He nodded and smiled. "No problem, I can sleep longer then." Walking past Melissa, he entered his bedroom and locked the door behind him. Immediately following that, he psyched himself up and took out the ritual dagger and created a sealed spirituality wall. He took 4 steps counterclockwise while reciting the incantation and withstood the chaotic roars before appearing above the grey fog. Okay, so he's making sure. In the illusory, boundless world, he was only living spirit sitting on a seat of honor at a long bronze table. For nearly a minute of silence, Klein conjured a piece of goatskin, parchment, and wrote down a divination in the incantation. I love how Klein is super cautious. the picture of the misfortune cloth puppet displayed. Although Klein had seen the mysterious picture on the paper clearly for a split moment, last night he only managed to remember the rough shape of the picture due to his anxiety. That wasn't the problem for a seer. He could reproduce anything he remembered and had seen once. According to mysticism theory, one's spirituality could remember everything they had seen. As long as they possessed the appropriate method, they could reproduce the scene whenever they wished. Oh, Klein even felt that the theory that spirit medium Tali described regarding the psychology alchemist made sense. Human memory was merely islands that were exposed above the sea. It couldn't withstand much. Hence, a person's spiritual lessons remembered most of the information and turned it into subconscious, which formed the entire ocean. Wow, okay. I like that. While spirituality itself, even if it wasn't the entire ocean, also included the entire sea region surrounding the island. After reciting divination incantation, Klein leaned backwards and fell asleep through cogitation. In a blurry, distorted separate world, he saw China's gate crack open once again as he heard the heavy grinding noises. The puppet in the black classic regal gown leaned into the opening of the door and unfurled the paper he was holding. On the piece of paper there were many mysterious symbols that collectively formed a vertical eye. Oh, like the seer symbol? Or vertical eye? Only the eye? Hidden sage? Klein casually observed the picture before exiting the dream. Then with the aid of the uniqueness of the world above the grey fog and the memory that had yet to fade, he expressed the image on the brown parchment. The vertical eye looked up at him, looking both sinister and mysterious. Klein thought and wrote below the eye, "This is key to the treasure that Antigonus family left behind." Putting down the pen, he untied the silver chain that was wound inside his sleeve. As he held it with his left hand, and topaz pendulum stably hung above the divination statement and the mysterious vertical eye. There weren't any obvious movements. By the way, there's two eyes. First of all, the symbol behind Klein in the grey fog, which is also the symbol of the secret order, which is the seer symbol. It's like a eye inside of like a gain. I'm not sure like what the appropriate word is for that item. This eye sits above it. Here it was just described as a vertical eye. So maybe it's not the same symbol then. There weren't any obvious movements. Klein closed his eyes and recited the sentence with his mind cleared. After 7 times he opened his eyes and saw the topaz spinning in small circles in clockwise fashion along with the silver chain. That meant affirmation, so Antigonus is related to it. It's connected to it. So the question was, this is the key to the treasure that the Antigonus family left behind. So I'm guessing maybe the treasure is on Hornatzis? Wait, let's try to make sense of this, right? Well, maybe not. Okay, so he keeps hearing murmurs from a high sequence seer saying Hornatzis Phlegrea. We know that the seer high sequence beyond there might be Saratul. Saratul is connected to the secret order. Secret order wanted the Antigonus notebook. But at the same time, they want them to go to Hornatzis. So it's all connected, so the treasure of the Antigonus might be at Hornatzis. And when the notebook is taken there, or when Klein goes there without the notebook, maybe the treasure is gonna activate, and maybe it's something to do with those people on Hornatzis, the nation of Evernight, who disappeared after dying. Maybe they're gonna be resurrected. Maybe that's how Antigonus family is gonna get reincarnated. Clockwise means negative? Clockwise. No, that meant affirmation. You're wrong. It even says it means affirmation. Counterclockwise means negative. Am I wrong? The vertical eye picture is really key to the treasure that Antigonus family left behind. I nodded in deep thought. He tapped his fingers on the edge of the long bronze table and muttered to himself. Because of Ray Bieber's death, there are no descendants of the Antigonus family left, hence the notebook views me, the seer, the interactive with it, but remains alive as its inheritor. It affected 30625 and left the key of the treasure with it, only to show it to me during my shift at Chinese Gate. Doesn't seem to be any problem with the logic, but I still doesn't seem very convincing. How could the notebook be sure that there are no more descendants of the Antigonus family? And I'm totally unrelated to that family. If I shared their bloodline, the original client wouldn't have committed suicide to begin with. Good deduction. I know, right, Luke? It doesn't seem to matter if they tell this to the captain and the team. Let me look into this. Klein then divined the location of the Antigonus family treasure, but unsurprisingly, there was no detailed information. Just like the letter that Sirius wrote to Mr. Zed, Klein could only be certain that the treasure was related to the main peak of Hornatz's mountain range and the ancient nation of Devonite. Yeah, exactly. After he finished divining all the matters, Klein noticed that the crimson star from which he had previously heard prayers was producing a faint fluctuation again. Derek! He used the method of answering prayers and touched the illusory star. He saw the brown-haired young man who wore the unique black tight suit again. The young man was kneeling on the ground, facing the pure crystal ball, still muttering about something. Klein, who had purposely learned some Jotun, finally understood one of the sentences. Pray, save, father and mother. No! I predicted this, I think. I said something to do, like he lost his family, maybe. Is it really Jotun? Where in the world is Jotun still used? It's an ancient language. Ancient antique that is thousands of years old. What a pity. The mysterious ruler above the grey fog is totally powerless. I don't have the ability to save them even if I want to. Klein shook his head and sighed. He decided to observe him for a little longer. Derek! I'll see what I can do when I master more Jotun. Is it Jotun or Jotun? Jotun vocabulary. I can understand what happened to his father and mother. Is there like war or like, I know there's a lot of monsters there. Klein retracted his spirituality, wrapped it around himself and initiated a descent. When I returned to his bedroom, he dispelled the spirituality wall, changed into old but comfortable clothing and laid down on the bed to get some sleep. Klein slept all the way till 12:30, which was when Melissa finished preparing lunch and came knocking on the door. After having a fairly sumptuous meal, he saw Melissa bring out her new dress and fishnet hat, looking like she was going out. What time do you guys eat lunch, by the way? Also, that's it of Derek, man. I want more. Do you still have something this afternoon? Klein asked, puzzled. Benson was seated on the sofa, knitting his eyebrows and grammar books. Aw, W. He didn't lift his head, but answered on her behalf. Mr. Shaw from next door told Melissa that there will be a lecture regarding family affairs in the municipal hall in the afternoon. Melissa plans to attend it and learn how to deal with daily household issues. Melissa nodded and said, I got Selena and Elizabeth to join me. That's nice. I hope that lecture tells you that a family like us needs to hire at least one maidservant, Klein joked. Noticing that Melissa was about to refute him, immediately added, we have to invest our time into more valuable matters. Melissa was stunned. After a while, she buckled her lips, put on her fishnet hat and left the house. Usually eat at 15, that's 3 p.m, right? I eat around the same time. At 2 in the afternoon, Klein arrived at Blackthorn Security Company again. Roseanne Dunn-Smith, who happened to be in the reception hall, asked in unison, Didn't you go home and rest? Klein smiled. I was going to the divination club, but I kept thinking about what happened last night, so I decided to come over here first. As there any reply from the Holy Cathedral, Dunn shot a glance at Roseanne and turned around silently. He walked past the partition and entered his office. Roseanne pulled her face at his back, then muttered angrily, Seriously, Captain? Well done, Klein complimented silently. He held back his laughter and followed Dunn into his office. Klein shut the door and Dunn sniffled his smoking pipe before he said, The Holy Cathedral has determined that the disturbance was because of the Antigonus family notebook, which they reclassified as Grade 1 sealed artifact. It's a pity. That means that you no longer have the sufficient security clearance to read it. Grade 1, highly dangerous. Only the ranks above bishops and Nighthawks team captains can know of the actual situation. It also means that Captain has no idea what's happening. Highly dangerous. No wonder. Klein felt regretful yet relaxed. Dunn gave a glance and continued. The Holy Cathedral told us to check if there are any other items behind Chinese Gate that were contaminated by the notebook. After verifications, only 30625 was abnormal, and we already changed its seal. Did you discover anything else? Klein pretended to ask curiously. Tan shook his head. No. Klein nodded in thought. He didn't continue with the topic. After some small talk, he bade farewell and left for the Divination Club to continue his journey of digestion. In the municipal hall. Ooh, Melissa! Without Klein. Three best friends, Melissa, Selena, and Elizabeth, sat near the door, waiting for the lecture to begin. If she delivers a bad lecture, we'll sneak out, Selena suggested excitedly. Elizabeth immediately agreed. Let's go shopping at Harrods. That's funny. Letting slip. 111, by the way. Chapter 111. 111. So I'm guessing that maybe eventually we're gonna go back to the vertical eye. But yeah, like Klein is getting tempted by going to Hornatzis. Like all roads lead to Hornatzis, I guess. I'm curious about what the secret treasure is of the Antigonus family. Sometime later, the lecturer, who had relatively high cheekbones, walked up to the wooden podium. She cleared her throat and said, "Good morning, kind and charitable ladies. I am Javiera. What I'm about to share with you today are my experiences in managing family expenses. There are three parts. The first being how good a family with annual income of £100 should balance food, housing, clothing, and employing helpers. The second will be where a family earning £200 a yearly should be increasing their expenditure to appear more decent." Wait, so Klein, how much per year? Right now? Oh my god, 288. That's a lot. Melissa listened attentively. She had her brother's annual income at her fingertips. It's already over £200, she thought, half in relief and half in fear. She was relieved and satisfied with her current life, but was also afraid that this way of life would vanish in a blink of an eye. Same, dude. I'm always scared something's gonna go wrong. Like I'm gonna lose my channel forever and then... Yes, Heavenly! Hello! You're the goat, by the way. Never stop, please. At this point, the wine-red-haired Selena covered her mouth. She told her two friends quietly. She seemed to be a believer of Lord of Storm. She was wearing a storm badge. Melissa looked over and saw Javiera wearing a badge depicting violent winds and tumultuous waves on her left chest. She quickly explained, "Mrs. Short, who told me about this seminar, is also a follower of Lord of Storms. I don't think it's strange that the speaker is a follower too." Yeah, I don't think there's a problem here. We're here to learn how to budget, Elizabeth concurred with Melissa. But other than Melissa, we don't need to, nor do we have the right to govern our family's finances, Selena pouted. Elizabeth reputed without hesitation. But we'll get married eventually and form our own families. Selena had been a little afraid of Elizabeth after the incident of demon mirror divination. She nodded in embarrassment and pretended to listen to the lecture attentively. The lecturer, Javiera, raised her right hand and said, "The premise of any form of budgeting is to respect the opinion of the man of the household." Interesting. They're the source of income, the pillar of the family. They face anxiety, stress, troubles, and disorder in society in order to obtain everything for us. Melissa is kinda breaking gender norms. I like that. They face anxiety, stress, troubles, and disorder in society in order to obtain everything for us. Thus, we have to create a serene home, one free from troubles from the outside. This will allow them to relax when they come home, allow their souls to be cleansed, allow them to be more prepared to face the challenges to come. So, as the famous philosopher, sociologist, humanities scholar, and economist Mr. Liumi once said, Mr. Liumi, a new name. A woman is the angel of a household. Selena stroked her cheek and traced her temples as she whispered with a little excitement, "Liumi, the person who said that humans are born free?" Elizabeth hesitated before answering, "Yes, but he's a believer of the Lord of Storms." At this point, the lecturer Javiera continued, "Mr. Liumi also informs us that females are intuitively flawed when it comes to intelligence and logic. In that case, unable to judge for themselves, that they should accept the judgment of their father and husband." Oh my god, that's that of the church. Interesting. adapted from Emil, apparently. Well, Lumi was an incel. Melissa, Celine, and Elizabeth looked at each other, speechless after hearing such a description. Let's go. Then finally suggested. Melissa and Elizabeth nodded, alright. The woman, man, she got like the lecture, she got whatever. Alright. Thank God, get the fuck out of here, please. The doctor wheeled hats and bent over, sneaking over to the side of the door in an attempt to leave without attracting attention. When they cautiously arrived outside, they could finally stand up straight. Suddenly heard a burst of applause coming from a small hall. Melissa instinctively looked back into the hall. She saw Mr. Shaw as well as many other ladies clapping. Jeez. Phew, praised the lady. Melissa exhaled. She left uncomfortable place together with Celine and Elizabeth. Shall we go to Harrods? Celine suggested as she stood out there at 3. She had already forgotten about what just happened. I mean... These were the societal norms back in the Victorian era, so I don't really blame for women believing in that. Like, they believe that they have less intelligence than men. I want, if I ever see Melissa again in the future volumes, and let's say there's a time skip, I want her to be an activist, like a feminist kind of figure who breaks those societal norms. She's already studying to be an engineer, which is a big W, right? It's basically pretty hard for female study for engineering because of societal norms and people like looking down on them. So I hope that in the future we're gonna see Melissa again in the future volumes. Damn. You are 3 chapters late. Melissa fell silent for a few seconds before saying, also, welcome, masters. I plan on returning home to study. Study, said a fiddle with their wine red hair, as if she had returned to her regular life. Also, I have to buy bread, beef, potatoes, and fruits. Klein need to work today. Benson went to the municipal library. So yeah, I have to go back. Melissa suddenly realized how much she loved her textbooks, her gears, and springs. So, you know, Klein already died? I know, but I meant, like, Melissa didn't die, right? So maybe we're gonna see them in the future. As Selena decided to keep her distance from the unusually weird Melissa, she turned to look at Elizabeth and smiled dutifully. Shall we go to Harrods together? Even though I've spent all my savings, it's still wonderful to window shop. Sure, Elizabeth accepted the suggestion. I thought window shopping means something else. Like something you do at a red light district. Am I wrong? Or is actually window shopping also a term for looking at clothing and stuff through the window? Sure, Elizabeth accepted the suggestion, then asked casually, Melissa, does your brother Klein have to work on Sundays? Yes, he rests on Mondays, different from ordinary jobs. Melissa unknowingly raised her head slightly. Okay. There was a interesting interaction in Mrs. Short's whatever, like she invited them. I guess they can do what they want, but Melissa obviously was offended, and good for her for going back to study. As we're leaving the Blackstone Security Company, Klein took a public carriage to Howe Street. He tried his hardest to suppress his emotions, to not think about the issue of the Antigone's family treasure. He tried to focus attention back on the matter of acting. Ah, I see, Lily. Okay. I see. I didn't know that. I don't know how much we're reading. We're reading until it's 5 p.m. for me. It was important to fully digest the potion as soon as possible. Improving himself was extremely important, no matter when it was. Acting as a seer. I'm not professional enough. The fortune tellers back in the feudalic empire had to go through an almanac all the time before they accomplished anything. Klein held his cane as he sat inside the carriage. It was an almanac. Let's see. Almanac? An annual calendar containing important dates and statistical information that says astronomical data. Something from astronomy. Okay. Comes from Arabic, right? Yeah, Arabic. Almanac. He had decided to divine if it was beneficial for him to travel to the divination club today. That was more befitting of a seer. As he was getting off the carriage, Klein took out the halfpence coin. His field of vision narrowed, his pupils becoming starker, and silently decided It is suitable to head to the divination lab today. It is suitable to head to the divination lab today. Damn. Dang. Klein flicked the coin up. He didn't look at the rotation of the coin, calmly extending his hand instead. Thunk. The alphabet sounded into the middle of his palm. This time the number 1 second was facing up. With the number facing up, that means that it will encounter an unfortunate incident in the divination lab today. Ooh, interesting. Klein thought for a moment before he turned to the opposite side of the street. He waited for the public carriage that was headed for Daffodil Street. He felt more and more like a charlatan. So he's not gonna go? House Street. The entrance to Harold's department store. Selena was just about to enter the building when she suddenly froze and looked to the side. Did something happen? Elizabeth asked puzzled. Selena puffed her cheeks and said, Elizabeth, I thought about my mysticism teacher, Mr. Vincent. He passed away just like that the morning after my birthday. Would it be because I picked and used the secret incantations? Oh, guilt. I've always felt guilty and uneasy because of this. Besides, I'm rather unlucky recently. So? Elizabeth asked quietly. There's a little bit tension between Selena and Elizabeth. Selena bit her lips and said, I wish to do a divination club over there and see if Mr. Vincent's death had anything to do with me. Oh my god, is that why Klein didn't go? From what happened at my birthday banquet, I have this nagging feeling that Elizabeth is hiding something from me. I remember the back of the man in a tuxedo. Can you divine yourself? Elizabeth asked in surprise. Selena sighed, imitating her father. I cannot divine it given my current condition. Alright, let's head to the divination lab first. Elizabeth agreed to her friend's suggestion. I think Klein might still go there, right? They headed over the street and made their way to the division club on the second floor by following the stairs. Hello, good afternoon, Miss Angelica. It's a pleasure meeting you again. Selena gave a lively greeting at the reception area. So what if Selena finds out? Angelica smiled and said, you should be able to find me here as long as you come after lunch, and exchanged niceties before lamenting Hannah's Vincent death. Then said, I need to have a divination performed. You know, the rules of the club is a list of members willing to do it. It's the weekend, so most of our members are here. Angelica explained like clockwork. Elizabeth cuddled their heads together as they scanned through a list of names and descriptions together. They're gonna spot Klein. Thankfully, Melissa is not here though. I should ask from my teacher directly. To think that the club would have this many members willing to do divinations compared to last year, Selena said excitedly. Suddenly she paused for a few seconds and said in puzzlement, Klein Moretti. Klein Moretti? Isn't the name of the same as Melissa's brother? Elizabeth froze. She looked repeated in the name, Klein Moretti, and nodded. That's true. Miss Angelica, is this Mr. Moretti around? Selena asked with a sparkle in her eyes. Angelica shook her head. My apologies, Mr. Moretti didn't come to the club today, so he did not go. Alright, we'll find someone else and I didn't mind not seeing the person, but she laughed at her friend. I know that this can't be Melissa's brother, but having seen this name, I naturally thought of a newspaper headline worthy of the Intis Press. Why? The Intis Press was created by Emperor Rosell, famous for its attention-grabbing headlines. It was one of the most famous newspapers in the northern continent. Attention-grabbing, like clickbaity? Elizabeth asked inattentively, what headline? Selena cleared her throat and said, it is decay of morals or a problem with society. History graduate actually ends up doing divinations over the weekends to make a living. Oh my god, funny. Yeah. So, Melissa wasn't there. Melissa would have been like, what? Klein? Right? I wonder if you're gonna tell Melissa about that little, like, coincidence that someone has the same name as Klein, even though, you know, same name. It is Klein. Azik's explanation. Oh my god, let's fucking go. Also, yeah, that place there with Mrs. Short. Damn. Backland Empress. Oh, Backland! Audrey Hall sat on a suspected chair in Mindy corner and looked at the flowers that were blooming under the sun. She thought of Forrest Wall's request. According to Viscount Claint, there was a young girl named Xio Derecha being impounded at temporary prison located in Backland's North Borough. She was charged with grievous assault against a decent gentleman due to financial conflict. She caused the man to be bedridden and he might not be able to stand on his feet ever again. So, this Chow girl knocked out an aristocrat Interesting. Regarding that, Forrest's explanation was that the gentleman wasn't a nice person, but the head of a gang in background's East Borough. He made a living by being an usury. Damn, deserved, I guess. The cause of the incident was when one of the borrowers found out that the interest was several times higher than expected, so like a loan shark, but like a fancy guy. So much so that it was impossible to return the amount of money even after he bankrupted himself. When his discussion with the gentleman ended fruitless, he found the famous intermediator Chio Derecha, hoping that she will persuade the other party to waive the unreasonable portion of the loan. So they were being scummy. They're being fucking not scammers, but they were doing shitty business. Basically scamming, not scamming, but I guess scamming and ruining people's lives, so that guy deserved it. The gentleman didn't respond well to Chio Derecha's attempts at arbitration, and even threatened to capture the borrower's wife and children that night. Hence, Chio switched tactics and chose to use physical means. Accidentally, she caused severe damage to the man. Damn. W. What the hell? Viscount Claint investigated the matter and confirmed that Forrest Wall was telling the truth. He also confirmed that the gangster had lost control of his underlings. Moreover, after a midnight visit by someone, the borrower's debts were waived. A statement was sent to the prosecutor to plead mercy for Chio. However, an assault case of such severity wasn't dropped even when the victim decided to not pursue a trial. Interesting. Client wished to solve the problem through normal means. He sent people to talk to lawyers that he was familiar with, but they were only confident of winning a lighter sentence, but it would be very difficult to acquaint her from the crime unless she obtains a medical certification stating that she is mentally incompetent or mentally undeveloped. Audrey muttered to herself, leaning in support toward her friend's opinion. Violence is not the solution, it's the answer. Yeah, depends on the situation, okay? To her, it was best to not have any relationship with Forrest Fall and Chio. Ever since the Dad Club, Audrey felt that she was no longer an innocent and naive young lady. Tomorrow night there will be dance at Earl's Wolf's residence. I shall tell Claint to act according to the lawyer's suggestion. Audrey nodded slightly as she made the decision. In the Lowen Kingdom, lawyers were either barristers or solicitors. The latter didn't need to be involved in court affairs, and they were responsible of gathering evidence taken to the parties involved, sending up wills on their clients' behalf, supervising property allocation, and providing legal consultation. Of course, they would also represent their clients to attend the most basic magistrate court and defend simple cases. Already seen Audrey saving Chio? No, they haven't. Barristers, on the other hand, were responsible for researching evidence and defending their citizens in court. According to the Lowen Kingdom's laws, they had to maintain an objective attitude, so they couldn't make direct contact with the litigant. They could, I don't know where the mods are, man. They could only communicate with them through their assistants, who were solicitors, to get a complete understanding of the situation. They were all true law experts who possessed outstanding communication skills and were skilled in debate. Master shouldn't have said that. Master's fucked up. Let me summon the mods. Master's your mod on Twitch, but I'm making you mod here. Also, don't fuck up again, please. Made you mod, Masters. There's no mods in passing, say. If the psychology... Wait, the relaxed Audrey observed the colorful flowers outside the willow hidden in darkness when she recalled something. Medical certification stating she was an initially incompetent psychiatrist. The psychology alchemists have grasped acting. Does that mean that they can be found among psychiatrists? Ooh! Audrey felt that her train of thought was on the correct path, and her eyes shimmered like a lustrous gemstone. I can imagine that. Just then she saw her golden retriever. I thought Nightwalker was here. That's why. Just when he saw her golden retriever, Susie sneaked behind the flower bushes to spot where only the gardener would be able to reach. Susie, what is she doing? Audrey hit the shadows and looked it in daze. Susie, best girl, by the way. The golden retriever's sense of smell seemed to be confused by the flowers around her, that she failed to notice her owner behind her. She opened her mouth and produced a sound that was like one exercising of their voice. Then it caused the surrounding air to vibrate into verses that were jerky and unmellow. Hello. How are you? Audrey's mouth widened as she completely forgot about etiquette an elegant lady should have. She couldn't believe the scene before her and she stiff voice that she had just heard. She suddenly stood up and asked, Susie, you can talk. When did you learn to talk? The golden retriever jumped in fright as she turned around to look at her owner. She shook her tail nervously and very quickly. She opened and closed her mouth a few times, vibrating the surrounding air. I don't know how to explain. I'm a dog, after all. Upon hearing that, Audrey was suddenly at a loss of words. Yes! I can't wait to go back to Backland, man. Monday morning, Klein followed his plan to revise and consolidate his physicism knowledge. Then he took the public carriage to Koi University. To Azik, I guess. He wanted to increase his interaction with Mr. Azik and find out exactly what he knew. The three-story grey building of the history department, Klein and his teacher Cohen Quentin chatted for a while and exchanged their information regarding the historical ruins of the main peak of Onatsis mountain range. Having not learned anything new, he seized the opportunity to enter the office diagonally opposite when his mentor left to handle certain matters. He then walked over to Azik's desk. The lecturer had stayed behind to take care of some matters. Now Klein now knows that Azik is a beyonder. Let's see how this interaction changes. Mr. Azik, can I have a chat with you? He asked the man with the tan skin, gentle facial features, and small mole below his right ear. He took off his hat and bowed. With eyes that seemed to have seen the vicissitudes of life, Azik tidied his books and replied, Damn. Sure, let's have a walk by the Koi's banks. All right. Klein held his cane and followed him out the three-story grey building. Along the way, they maintained their silence. Neither of them spoke. When the flowing river water entered their vision and there were no teachers or students passing by, Azik suddenly stopped in his tracks. He turned his body half-way faced Klein and asked, Is there something I can help you with? I remained silent for a long while, thinking of several tactful ways of asking his questions, but he gave up on all of them. Therefore, he spoke frankly and directly asked, Mr. Azik, you're a trustworthy person, a respectable gentleman. I would like to know what you can see in me. Or should I say, what do you know? I'm referring to that previous incident when you said there was something disharmonious in my fate. Nightwalker? I thought you were here, man. Azik put down his cane and sighed as he laughed. I never expected you to be so straightforward. I'm quite at a loss to answer you. To be frank, that's a lot of money, man. Wow. TTS? Hello, TTS? What? It's initialized. No!
Mr. Azik is the true goat. Azik is the perfect DILF Azik Ra.
Why is it so delayed? Bro. Wait, let me fix that. Why is it doing that? Perfect DILF Ra. Thank you for the rupees, by the way. 500 rupees. Okay. It's connected. Perfect Tilfra. True. Azik is hot. I like his tanned skin as well, man. Azik put down his cane and sighed and laughed. I never expected to be straightforward. I'm quite at a loss how to answer you. To be frank, disharmony in your fate was the only thing I could see. Other than that, I don't know any more than you do. Klein hesitated and asked, but how could you tell? I don't believe that this was derived from divination. Azik looked sideways toward Koi River. His intonation was tainted with some bleakness. No, Klein, you don't understand. Divination can reach that kind of level. It only depends on the person doing divination, of course, but divination was merely an excuse. Some people are special. They are born with some strange ability. I think I am someone like that. You think? Klein acutely caught in the word the other man used. Yes, I'm not sure if I was born with it. Perhaps the price of my ability is to forget myself, to forget my past, forget my parents. So, damn, I actually low-key feel so bad for Azik, by the way. Azik's eyes were clouded with melancholy as he looked at the river. Klein was increasingly confused. Forget the past? Azik smiled without any humor. Before I entered Backland University History Department, I lost most of my memory. Only remembered my name and some basic knowledge. Luckily, I still had my ID documents. Otherwise, I probably would have ended up homeless. All these years, I tried to search for my parents using my identification documents, but I never found anything, even though I could see a corner of fate. During my few years in the university, I gradually realized that I possessed some strange but unique powers. Powers that go beyond common sense. Like a beyonder, beyond common sense. Klein listened attentively and asked, Mr. Azik, why did you lose your memory? No, I mean, did you find out why you lost your memory? He suspected that Mr. Azik was a member of the live school of thought who had just lost his memories. And this might even be a mid-sequence beyonder that held an above-average position. It was a secret organization that had potion sequences for Monster and Soothsayer. Soothsayer? It was an organization that was mainly passed down through master-disciple relationship. Monster is crazy, but what is Soothsayer? Let me check my notes. What does that even mean? Like you speak soothly? Huh. Sooth. Nope, nothing. Okay, so a new pathway, guys. New pathway unlocked. Soothsayer. There we go. How many left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 2 left, guys. During my few years, yeah. Azik shook his head vigorously. No, it felt like I just had slept. I'd forgotten everything that happened in the past. He walked toward a few steps with his cane in his hand. He spoke as he walked. How many times as it happened? Why did you write unknown pathway for sick monster? Because it's unknown pathway for... Oh. It used to be unknown pathway for everything until it was revealed that... What is it called? For example, corpse collectors will be death pathway. Right? So it's just monster. This should be... No. Wasn't this Bard? Remember something about Bard. That's why. There we go. Soothsayer is from Monster? I didn't know that. Soothsayer is Monster pathway. Oh. For monsters and Soothsayer, it says. I don't think that's true, Hopeland. Maybe I'm wrong, though. It is suspected that Mr. Azik was a member of the Life School of Thought who had lost his memories and that he might even be a meat sequence beyonder an above average position. It was an organization that had potion sequences for Monster and Soothsayer. Monster and Soothsayer is different pathway, no? A potion sequences for Monster and Soothsayer, they're different. It was an organization that was mainly passed down through master-disciple relationship. What pathway is Klein from? Whatever sequence 1 is called, maybe? Maybe because my theory is sequence 1 of Corpse Collector is called Death. Interesting discussion with you guys. I guess I'm wrong because obviously, like, I'm at the start, so I will maybe change my notes later then. Anyway. He walked towards a few steps with his cane in his hand and spoke as he walked. After I left Backland, I started dreaming. I dreamed about a lot of strange things. I wonder how many times it happened to Azik. Dreams. I am good at it's so hard word. Interpreting dreams. The conversation was entering Klein's domain of expertise as he immediately asked, what kind of dream? Azik let out a muffled laugh and said, many different kinds of dreams. Sometimes I will dream of the internals of a dark mausoleum. I will dream of ancient coffins with corpses in them. They would have white feathers growing out from their backs. Sometimes I will dream of myself being a knight covered in armor, holding a 3-meter long spear while charging towards the enemy. I will dream of ancient coffins with corpses in them. Yeah. White feathers growing out from their backs, like angels. Some will dream of myself being a knight covered in armor, holding a 3-meter long spear. Sometimes I dream of myself as a feudal lord, having rich and fertile weave, with a beautiful wife and 3 children. Sometimes I dream of myself as a tramp, walking on muddy road in the rain, feeling cold and hungry. All of his like not past lives, but before he has forgot, I think. Sometimes I dream of myself having a daughter, a different daughter than the previous children. She would have long, smooth black hair and she enjoys sitting on the swing that I made. She always asks for sweets from me. Sometimes I dream of myself standing next to the gallows, looking toward the dead body hanging up there coldly. Listening to Azik ravings like a madman, Klein suddenly realized that he couldn't interpret the dreams because his various dreams symbolized opposite, contradictory things. Azik retracted his gaze as his voice no longer sounded ethereal. The Frenaboter Kingdom in the south believes in Earth Mother, and the Church of Earth Mother promotes a belief. They believe that every life is a plant absorbing the nutrients from Earth, growing slowly, prospering, withering. When they wither, these lives fall to the earth and return to the mother's embrace. In the coming year, they grow again, they will blossom, then wither. Year after year, life is such, one life another. Sometimes I'm very willing to believe in this concept. I believe because of my uniqueness. I can dream of previous lives and the lives before that. At this point, he looked at Klein and said a sigh. I haven't mentioned any of this to Gohan before. The reason I'm telling you is because Azik paused and smiled. I apologize. My description earlier was not precise enough. The disharmony in your fate is not the only thing I could see. You don't see another thing. Klein. You're not an ordinary person anymore. You possess an extraordinary, strange power, one very similar to mine. Wow. Oh man, like, I'm guessing this is unique to his pathway, right? But it kinda I kind of feel like if you're on the sleepless pathway, that will happen to you as well. Because you know how forgetful Tan Smith is, right? But, like, how old is he? Like, at least like 1,000 years old, maybe? Dude is a cultivator, as for real. Dude is a cultivator for real. I mean, would you... Question for you guys. Would you trade immortality, but every like 60 years you're gonna forget everything? And you have like, you have to start the family all over again? I don't know if I would, if I would accept that. It seems miserable. So if it's both ways, sounds like I will be paranoid 90% of the time, yeah. That's the, and then what's the point of it? God. Damn. I'm guessing like every high sequence beyond there leaves really old. Your lifespan just increases every single time when you get to the mid and high sequences. But like I don't think every pathway has the forgetfulness with it with Azik. I think it's Azik's pathway or Azik himself. Let's just reincarnate me. Sometimes I'm just waiting for death, you know. I won't accept immortality even if there were no downsides, honestly. Like, before I existed, life was going on. After I die, life will go on. You know what I mean? Just let me die. Okay, that was actually a bit dark. Anyway, next chapter, 113. This is what happens when you read Lord of Mysteries. You become like a doomer. Anyway. Azik not beating the cultivar allegations, yeah. Request. Mr. Azik, can tell that I'm beyond her. His ability is truly powerful. Line froze for a moment before he gave an honest reply. Yes, he thought for a while before adding, because of what happened to the Welsh and Naya. It's as I thought, Azik sighed. There were two people with extraordinary powers amongst the group of police that came to question me and Cohen. It was probably Captain and Leonard. They were in charge of Welch's case. Klein nodded slightly, not interrupting Azik. Love is Solofy, if you offer me ageless, that's just immortality, then I'll grab it in a heartbeat. But like imagine the feeling you had before death. There was nothing. You can just stop existing. Wouldn't it feel so... Okay, I don't know if I'm enabling anything, but that's how I genuinely feel, right? I'm not suicidal, by the way. I want to keep living. It's just like... I think death is not bad. At least, like... Maybe if I'm faced with death, I will change my mind. But it just would feel nice not to exist. Anyway, that's very deep. 113. Mr. Azik, can I tell... Yeah. Just as I thought, Azik sighed. There were two people with extraordinary powers amongst the group of police that came to question me and Cohen. Probably Captain and Leonard. They were in charge of Welch's case. Klein nodded slightly, not interrupting Azik. Azik raised his cane and said, "You should have entered their circle. I hope that you can help me search for clues of my origin. You do not need to go out your way to do it. Just note it down if you find any clues." Upon saying that, Azik wore a bitter smile. I don't know any other person with extraordinary powers. You cannot imagine what emotions a man with the past has. You're like a boat floating in vast ocean. Oh god. And the most terrifying thing is not facing a storm, but not being able to find a harbor. The inability to navigate the shore. All you could do is take on disaster after disaster with no end in sight, never to feel peace and safety. Wow. Damn. Man. No, Mr. Azik, I know how it feels, for I am a similar position. Fortunately for me, I have the memory fragments of the original client, as well as Melissa and Benson. One answered silently before he asked, "Mr. Azik, why didn't you join a similar group when you possess such magical ability and search for clues yourself?" Azik looked in the client's eyes and fled out a self-deprecating smile. "Because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of death." Oh. Miss Harden continued, I have gotten used to life like this. I like my life. I don't have the courage to take that risk, so I can count on you. Klein didn't say any more. He promised, I'll pay special attention if I come across any clues. Alright, we should return to the office. Let's have a lunch together with Kohan when he's done with work. Do you remember? The East Palm restaurant in university is quite good. My treat. Azik lifted his cane and pointed to that direction. Oh god. It is big, dude. It's Sunday. It's Monday, actually. Oh shit, it's Monday in the novel. It is big. In the donghua, I think it was incredibly done. Episode 6, I think it was. Like here, if you read from text, it's like, it's all your imagination. But I think the soundtrack and the scenes of his dreams made it a lot more emotional, right? My apologies, I really have no memories of that. How could the studying original client have afforded the East Palm restaurant? Even if Welch was treating, he would still reject going to such an expensive place. Klein pressed on his hat and returned to the third level of the grey stone building which housed the history department with Azik. I think someone paid for you, maybe. A few steps later, Azik suddenly spoke. I'll be on summer break after I finish sending all my work at the university. You can visit me at my house or write me. Damn, we're going really deep. I know, then said casually, Mr. Azik, I thought that you would head to Desi Bay for a vacation. No, it's too hot in the south right now. I don't like so-called sunbathing. Look at my skin color, it stands easily. I'd rather head to the Winter County, the north of Vesak Empire, to ski, sightsee, or hunt seals. Hunting seals? Azik, who had a bronze skin, smiled as he replied. I will too. Klein, who had just joined the Nighthawks, revealed a look of envy. After a lunch, Klein returned home and took a nap before beginning a revision and study of charms and amulets. He hoped to grasp them quickly to create objects that could at least be used in battle and help him. When he was approaching 3 in the afternoon, Klein packed his stuff and sealed the room with wall of spirituality. It's Monday! In the majestic divine hall above the grey fogs, the long, ancient model table. Derek, maybe? We're gonna get Derek in? Klein sat at the seat of honor, his face enveloped by the thick fog. He looked at the still obscured Justice and Hanged Man as they appeared at their designated seats. Miss Justice's emotion doesn't seem too stable. Worry and ease, a little lost, and observed the only female member of Terror Club with spirit vision. The only member of female club? You have 3 members for now. Words couldn't describe Audrey Hall's emotions. She was extremely shocked by Susie's sudden speech. She had imagined the future with herself as great detective or a famous psychologist bringing along her assistant Susie. But if that became the dog's detective, Susie bringing along her assistant Miss Audrey, then it will be a little not little, it will be straight up weird. It leaves me lost. Audrey suddenly sat up straight. She wanted to request for Mr. Wolf's and the Hanged Man's help. But she followed the words he was about to say. How should I ask this? What should I do if my pet is abnormal? How should I interact with a pet that can speak, one that can has decent intelligence? No, this is a Tarot Club, not an experience sharing on pets. I bet that good impression that the Hanged Man and Mr. Fool have of me will chatter if I ask those questions. Interesting. I want to see Olga's reaction to that though. Audrey's mind whirled. Finally, she organized her words and said, Honorable Mr. Fool and Mr. Hanged Man, who has helped me all this time, I have a question to ask. What can a pet with beyond their powers do for its owner? In other words, how useful is it? Good way to ask, by the way, very good way. She had just said her piece when she noticed Mr. Fool and the Hanged Man slip into silence. The atmosphere became a little weird. Hey, say something. Don't look at me in those eyes. I did nothing. Really, I was asking for a friend. Classic. Audrey wanted to burrow into a small hole of shame. She deeply regretted asking the question, considering that she had previously asked what would happen if any ordinary animal consumed the sequence potion. Did she share the potion she formulated with her pet? That seemed like something only Miss Justice would do. I felt a little pathetic being at the boss of a heretical with her as a member. Klein lifted his finger hand and propped it against his forehead and pinched it twice without giving any answer. Like this, like, asking for a friend. The hanged man Olger was silent for nearly 20 seconds before he replied in a strange tone. That depends on what kind of beyonder powers a bet has. For example, if the spectator can help you observe or listen on certain occasions. As you know, most humans are wary of each other but will never suspect a bet or be eavesdropping on them, even if the bet was sitting right by their feet. Yeah, exactly. Like, I will do all the gossip near my cat. And I don't know if my cat is snitching on me or not. You know what I mean? It makes sense. Father would avoid me when discussing important matters with the nobles, cabinet members and other ministers. He would often lock the door of the room, but if Susie could hide along to be locked in with them, then she won't be chased away. Also, many ladies like to interact with private social circles. Audrey had a sparkle in her eyes as many thoughts swelled in her mind. Nice! Also, since Susie can speak, no funny hope, she can tell the content of the meetings directly. Susie is great. I have to treat you well. I have to teach you proper pronunciation and vocabulary. Should I teach Susie the aristocratic pronunciation or more normal background accent? Would other dogs pick up on where Susie comes from, where they interact? You're thinking too much into it, Susie. I am considering this. Susie won't use human language when interacting with other dogs. Wait, Mr. Ranked Man, why did you use Spectre as an example? Could you have guessed what happened? Other expression changed. She regained her posture and smiled. Mr. Fool, I found another page of Emperor Rosel's diary. I got this from Force Fall. Great, I replied what you owed, Clan replied in a good mood. I'm sorry, there's not much content on this page of diary. Audrey was conjuring the content she remembered under the piece of coatskin. Klein raised his hand and made the coatskin parchment appear in his palm, before saying, this doesn't affect any promise. Furthermore, the parts of the diary you handed me previously had 2 pages. The pages collected by Justice and Hanged Man were not originals, they were copied by researchers. Some would copy in 1 page for recording purposes, others kept the original look of the diary for convenience. Klein looked down at a few lines of text on the page. 20th of December, a new year approaches, but the feedback I received is making me very confused and troubled. There is no crude oil in this world. There's no crude oil! That's terrible for our industrial evolution. So that means there were no dinosaurs and there were no ancient plants, because oil comes from like plants that lived 200,000 years ago or something. What will the USA do here? USA will find a way to steal something else, probably. That's funny though. They're gonna steal your water now. Anyway. That's actually pretty worrying. That means that maybe this world is quite new. As in, you know, this planet we are on, there hasn't been time for like plants and animals to turn into oil yet. Like, Hopland, yeah, that was told last time, that stream. That's actually cool. What if the USA has already stolen it? Shut up. That's funny though. Which means that I'm guessing this world or this planet is quite new, right? American Century of Elimination is here. Finally, dude. The big bully is over. 114, the standards of a member. So, 1 page this time, and it was revealed that there's no oil in this world. And you know, like I said earlier, oil comes from like old plants, old skeleton bones, dinosaurs, and that makes me think this world is very new. Even though I think the first epoch was like 10,000 years ago, but 10,000 years ago is still quite recent if you look at the Earth age, which is 4 billion years old, right? Anyway, 1 second, let me... I think I need to pee. Maybe some god, which is like on a different level from Orthodox gods made this world or something, like 10,000 years ago or something. Anyway, I'm gonna go pee. Right back. Yo, let me think about this oil situation while I ate this banana. So, what if I didn't look hard enough? Like, how does Roswell know? Like, did he check every nook and cranny of the world? What about like near the Silver City or something? Like, how does he know? Milking mystical beings for oil? Wow. I guess, gotta do what you have to do. Can't wait to wake up at 3 a.m. to milk my dragon. Anyway. I just can't think of Roswell like this being 100% true. If there is oil, then it's skill issue from not Roswell, what the fuck? Rosell. They say Roswell? That's 3-0. How does oil is formed? Oil from like ancient plants and animals who have died. Their corpses turn into oil, I think. But mainly plants, so dinosaurs. Whale. But I think if it turns out there's no crude oil, that means that the world is like 10,000 years old. Not like Earth, which is 4 billion. Unless some god used up all the oil in the first few epochs, suck it out from Earth. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a geologist, so I don't really know 100%, but I heard it's because of that. Some god gatekept crude oil. Anyway, I'm just thinking it's because the planet or whatever they're on, or the world is new. What if the world here is flat? 114. Then Tanner's a member. Okay, Master, shut up. No crude oil, it couldn't be found for some reason, or there really wasn't any available. From the period Emperor Cell was assassinated till this day, about 150 years have passed, and there are still no traces of crude oil. Klein's pupils I still don't believe this assassination stuff, I feel like it's a cover-up. Klein's pupils constricted as his hands quivered while holding the diary. No crude oil, not only meant that the future of the internal combustion engine became uncertain, also led to a state of stagnation in the chemical industry. In other words, Earth's modern industrial age will never transpire here. I wonder if they can find something else that's like oil. In short, development of this world was uncertain to Klein. Although he couldn't invent things, he had assumed that he was still an advantage because he knew a bit of everything and could foresee the direction of technological development. When he saved enough money, he could make a risky investment on an industry that he thought showed promise. Furthermore, he would put all his eggs in one basket. Now thinking about future investments, not thinking about going back to Earth. What the hell, Klein? Also, can you not use like gas, like earth gas instead of oil? Klein thought that it was only a matter of time until he could own enormous wealth. By then, he could hire the so-called White Gloves as representatives to establish international charity foundations. On the surface, they would provide relief to the poor. Based in reality, they would actually be establishing and funding a revolt in order to fight against the higher strata of society and enhance the living standards of the people in the lower class. Down with the bourgeois choice. I don't know how to say that fucking word. Klein is based, dude. And where to find a method of returning to Earth, he will segregate his property. A third to Penson, a third to Melissa, and a third of for his foundation. However, it was pity that his perfect vision of the future was instantly half shattered. Luckily, there is still electricity and magnetism in this world. The telegram is a successful example. I shall mainly invest in the future, climb settle down and read down row by row. 21st of December, I'm no longer thinking about crude oil anymore. Upgrading my sequence level is what matters. Okay, it took him 1 day to forget about crude oil. Wow. 22nd of December, the filthy environment in Riao Borough, some Frenchy borough, is unacceptable. If I hadn't visited incognito, I might never known that it still looks the same as when I was young. And together all my sisters and formulate the captain's humor and the public toilet enhancement plan. So people were shitting on the streets or something? Other rectify and people's bad habits. Let them boil hot water for consumption. Wash their hands and faces frequently. Don't litter, don't pee and poop anywhere. Use condoms if possible. Haha, I thought of what I'd name this campaign. The patriotic health campaign. That's actually kind of cool from Marcel. Thank you, man. Hence the mention of the condom has to be brought forward. Also masks, paper cups and others, yes, even the most primitive versions will do. Give it a try. I have to thank this world for they still have rubber trees. So 1,000 years ago, or like ancient condoms were made of like animal skin, by the way. So imagine like feeling from that compared to like the very tight condoms we have right now. 23rd December, perhaps I should consider that succession. Give a backdoor for myself outside the search for God of craftsmanship. For example, I will join that ancient and mysterious organization which influences the world from the shadows. What? What ancient and mysterious organization which influences the world from the shadows? Damn, some like crazy theories around here. Klein then suddenly realized... God, for example, I will join that ancient and mysterious organization which influences the world from the shadows. Illuminati? Tarot Club? That was in the past. Imagine Tarot Club being that kind of influence in the future, though. And then I realized that there were nothing else at the bottom of his emotion. His emotions were indescribable. Emperor Cell, that was the name of the ancient and mysterious organization that was influencing the world from the shadows. Do I know it? How could you stop there? Why didn't you write more? Me right now, by the way. It's just like I used to read novels when I read till the end and realized that the author ended up dropping the novel. That happened. And the patriotic health campaign. The Emperor sure knows how to have fun. The contents of the diary should have been written after he became consul of the Entities Republic. He might already have called himself the Emperor Caesar. He blue-balled me. Yeah, he's edging us. I have to read books when I get back and flip. I think it's some organization that hasn't been named yet. I flipped through some historical text of other countries. I have to see which year the capital sewer and public toilet enhancement plan took place. After his nearly 20 seconds of silence, Klein reined back his thoughts and let the diary in his hands vanish into thin air. You can start your discussions now. Audrey let out a breath of relief and adjusted her state to become a spectator. She smiled faintly and said, I'd like to know if there are any sequence potions named Arbiter or a kind of Beyonder that can go through wooden doors or make locks ineffective. Ooh, so what Force has. Interesting. I know about this. Enveloped in the grayish-white fog, Klein was going to reply, but the Hanged Man answered first. Imagine, like, it would be so funny if it's called Door sequence. I need to help me investigate something in return for the answer. What is it? Audrey asked with interest as well as with puzzlement. Olger glanced towards the fool and said, I'd like to know if the king has the intention of taking revenge on the Vasak Empire and launching a new war on the east coast of Palam within this year or before June of next year. Interesting. There might be a war. The Tarot Club was currently using the Loan language, which was confirmed by the trio's accents. At the first gathering, hence, Olger knew what Miss Justice was a noble in the Loan Kingdom, but he also believed that Miss Justice knew that he was a Loan. As for the fool, Olger believed that his paper as a Loan was merely a disguise that would ease discussion. Yes, Olger, you're right. Ever since the ritualistic magic, Olger started using him to address the fool politely. Yes, because the fool is him. Oh, do you act as a door? You open the door. Gatekeeping. Yeah, gatekeeper is funny. Audrey recalled everything that she heard from various social events, and she nodded confidently and said, "No problem, but I will need a sufficient time to be certain." "I can wait," Olga smiled and said, "With Mr. Fool as a witness, I believe you won't go back on your promise." Audrey looked toward the quiet yet mysterious Fool and coughed in grey fog as a corner of her mouth curved upwards. "Well, I think the value of this information is worth more than both questions put together. When you confirm the answer, I'll provide compensation depending on the situation." Olga replied with the answer he prepared beforehand. Look at Audrey go, by the way! Audrey, damn! "Miss Justice, Mr. Hanging Man, do you need virtual currency to determine value?" Klein smiled and leaned backwards while he looked at the two people before him. Audrey relaxed and cheered for herself in her mind. "Well done, Audrey! You learned how to negotiate." She was so excited that she nearly broke out of her spectate. I love Audrey, man. I love Audrey so much. She quickly thought of something and asked, "Oh, right, Mr. Hanged Man, did you receive the £1,000? "I'm sorry, I'm still sailing. I have to return to land." Olga wasn't willing to bring it up. He answered her original question. "The Beyonder that can go through wooden doors and foil looks will probably sequence 9 apprentice." Oh, really? Apprentice? So Madame Force is at least an apprentice. The secret organization Theosophy Order has its formula. Theosophy Order, yeah. However, don't ignore the possibility that it was obtained through other channels, such as Ancient Tomb of the 4th Epoch. The Theosophy Order, secret organization that has countless ties with the demoness sect. Klein rubbed his chin with his finger. I don't think Force got it through the Theosophy Order, by the way. I think, we'll see though. Since Mr. Fool didn't refute what was said, Audrey couldn't help but sigh. Maybe. If I hadn't found the formula for apprentice before, I might not have opted for spectator. The performance was simply outstanding. Olga didn't bother with Miss Justice's remark, but continued his explanation. There's also a sequence portion that's entitled Arbiter. I think you should be familiar with it, because it's a sequence pathway that Augustus and Feinabotter Kingdom Castilla family has. Of course, the low sequence formulas were used to reward in ancient times. Some nobles might have received it before. Okay, interesting, wait. Augustus and Feinabotter Kingdom's Castilla family has the Arbiter sequence formulas. Okay. The Augustus family was a royal family in the Roman Kingdom, while the Castilla family was a royal family in the Feinabotter Kingdom. It turns out that the Augustus family are all arbiters. Audrey is enlightened and felt that it cleared up her suspicion. So... okay. I wonder if these two families' history went back where maybe Augustus and Castilla were like the same family in the past but split up. Why else would they have the same pathway potions? Because low sequence formulas were used as rewards in ancient times. Some nobles... Okay, that's why. So maybe not. Anyway, it turns out that the Augustus family are all arbiters. Audrey was enlightened and felt that it cleared up her suspicion. So the Augustus family and Castilla family are still around. You're gonna want to write it down? Yeah. You're right. So the August family are all arbiters. Audrey was enlightened and felt that it cleared up her suspicion. She sighed and thought, it is no wonder it's always gone along with their arrangements. Always uncomfortable, always willing to admit defeat. Like, I'm never myself when I'm before them. I thought it was because I was timid. What does arbiter mean? I have to Google arbiter meaning. Arbiter means a person who settles a dispute or has ultimate authority in matter. I see. So they're like Giga chats. They're like, I'm right. And then everyone will agree with them. Kinda. Interesting. They're like manipulators then. Audrey nodded slowly and leaned backward. She then spoke elegantly. Wait, but the Arbiter has a convincing charm and considerable authority as well as outstanding combat ability that can deal with unexpected. Olga described the situation simply. Audrey nodded slowly and leaned backward. She then spoke elegantly. I have no more questions. Olga thought and looked toward the seat of honor at the long bronze table. Honorable Mr. Fool, I'd like to ask if the true creator, holy residence that the Aurora Order advocates is the legendary Forsaken Land of God. Okay, so I mean, now Olga is asking this from Mr. Fool is because of the listener guy. But the Fool doesn't know that. The Fool is gonna be like, what? I only seen that term in Roselle's diary. He might be in the secret pockets of the Nighthawks, but this is something I can know of currently. How do you want me to answer? Ryan nearly twitched the corner of his lips. He considered it for a while, then he replied and calmed down. This is not something you should know. Oh my god, really? Wow, he said it like that. Agnar felt his heart tighten and immediately lowered his head and replied, Please forgive me for overstepping my boundaries. Audrey wanted to ask about the Forsaken Land of God, but she also gave up the thought when she heard that. I mean... Where is the voice again? You're getting scammed from the voice, by the way. Thank you for the pounds again, by the way.
What is more? My lord and savior, Mr. Fool's aura or Alger the hanged man's glaze for my lord.
Alger's glaze for the lord. Where is the voice? I don't know, but thank you for the 500 stones. Wow. Masters, I think the DTS hates you. I have it connected. Super chat, yes. DTS. Any value. Message. Everything should work. It worked the first day and then it stopped working, by the way. Queues. No queue. Pending action. No pending action history. Man, thank you for the 500 stones, by the way. That's a lot. I'm gonna fix it for the next time, by the way. Don't worry, man. I don't know. I'm gonna investigate. He gave me 500 spirit stones. If you know, you know. Thank you for the rupees, dude. Thank you so much. Damn. I can buy more bananas and Pepsi. Thank you. I'll fix it next time, Masters. You can test it next stream. What's the current song? The current song is called... It's from Expeditionary 3. I don't know the song name, it doesn't say. Anyway. Forsaken Land of God, I only seen that term once. Alger felt his heart tighten and immediately lowered his head and replied, Please, forgive me for overstepping my boundaries. Audrey wanted to ask about the Forsaken God, but she also gave up the thought when she heard that. In the lofty divine hall above the grey fog, silence suddenly filled the air. At that moment, Audrey felt that she should say something. Mr. Fool, and I'm saying if I have the opportunity to join another organization such as the Psychology Alchemist, is it permitted? I maintained his posture leaning backward, as he said with chuckle. That is no problem. My requirement is that the existence of the Dark Club is not to be exposed. If you become a member of another organization, the materials and information you can use for exchange will also increase. After hearing that, he suddenly recalled that he was also a member of another organization. He was really a real Nighthawk, while the Hanged Man was most likely related to the Search of Storms. Would my tarot club be so-called Rebels Alliance? Traitor Gathering? Glenn was drowned in deep thoughts. Traitor Gathering, by the way, Rebels Alliance? Aura. Understand now, Audrey was exalted, but she immediately thought of the question. Mr. Fool, if I found a suitable gentleman or lady for this gathering, could I guide them to join? How do I do that? Mr. Please, please, please. Force wall. Madam, force wall. Alger thought and asked Mr. Fool, what is the requirement to be a member of this gathering? How do we determine? Ambitious, ethical, cultured, disciplined. 4 words popped in Klein's head instantly. He maintained his silence for a few seconds and only spoke when Justice and Hanged Man appeared. Also, Susie and Force. I want Susie and Force to join. Hanged Man appeared. He maintained his silence for a few seconds and only spoke when Justice and Hanged Man appeared a little uneasy. You can inform me here of people you find suitable. I will decide if they will join us before that. You can't give any hint that will cause the Secret of the Order Club existence to be exposed. You must remember the non-gathering members. Klein paused and said to a heavy voice, you must not speak my name without my permission. Holy! Cheat! Wow! Full had aura there at the end, by the way. Oh, by the way, Madame Force is a chain smoker, I think. It will be funny if her voice is very deep in donghua. It will make sense, right? She'll be like, my voice is very deep as a woman. Also, aura. Klein Boston said in a heavy voice, you must not speak my name without my permission. Holy shit, dude. I got chills. Anyway, we had another meeting. Apparently, there's no crude oil. I mean, that was last chapter. Which means I think the world is very new. At least this world. And then Audrey also talked about Susie with a little interaction where the fool said to Olger, you should not know at this moment. And, you know, I feel like if he said that in the first meeting or second meeting, Olger will be a little bit sus of the fool. But I think the fool has gotten both of their respect, so they will not suspect him so easily, right, for being a fraud. Even though the fool is a little bit of a fraud, though. This line was not adapted in the donghua. I think it wasn't, yeah. The fool, low-key, is a fraud, but it's a fraud with aura. Anyway. Sheet. You must not speak my name without my permission. Several minutes after the gathering ended, Audrey and Olger, who had returned to their bedroom and ship respectively, could still hear the words of the fool reverberating in their ears. Ooh, everlasting impression on them, by the way. The impression of the mysterious and powerful fool was normally relaxed, calm, and unfathomable. It was rare that they could adopt such a stern, supercilious attitude. Because of that, they were exceptionally alarmed. They submitted to his wishes sincerely. They were no strangers to words like that, but these instructions were normally recorded within the Revelation of Evernight or the Book of Storms. In the West Borough, yeah, see? Like, if you hear it yourself, not read it from text, it hits harder. In the West Borough of Dingen City on Daffodil Street, Klein pulled up, opened the curtains, and allowed the golden sunlight to pour into his bedroom. He'd inspected the stars that previously sent out a prayer after Justice and the Hanged Man left, but didn't obtain any information this time around. Okay. Since the Crimson Star ability to restore prayers, akin to sending offline messages, Klein believed that the youth who spoke Jotun hadn't prayed again from the last 2 times he entered the world about the giant. So there was 2 scenes with Derek now. Now we know that his mother and father, I'm guessing, are in a very bad state because he said save mother and father. This might be still alive, but they might be like ill, terminally ill. Maybe there was a war. Maybe they have already passed and Derek is like coping and trying to bring them back somehow. So yeah. Since the Crimson Star had the ability to store prayers, akin to sending offline messages, Klein believed that the youth who spoke Jotun hadn't prayed again from the last 2 times he entered the world above the giant. This made him suspect that there was no longer left no hope left for the youth's parents, and that the young man had chosen to give up. Also, by the way, I remembered something. I was saying this after the last stream. I forgot to say in the beginning. You know how Klein was praying to the Celestial Worthy? I'm thinking the Celestial Worthy is the god who created this world. And maybe the person behind Klein's transformation. Now, why was it in a book from like 1000, I think it was 1000 BC, like from a Chinese book, old book? Maybe the god who created this world was the very first transmigrator from that era. Because we know that there are multiple transmigrators, why couldn't the Celestial Worthy also be a transmigrator from like the very first one? Maybe he didn't necessarily create the world, but he created the transmigration cycle that I think exists. Anyway, my brain will explode. Let's keep reading. With his back facing the sunlight, Klein walked to the edge of the bed and laid down. He didn't want to move. He knew that he shouldn't waste any time and head to the divination club and continue the process of digesting the potion, but he didn't want to move. He laid silently on his bed, enjoying the rare break. It transmigrated into... Yeah, I'm not sure about the creation of the world itself, but starting the cycle of transmigration, maybe he was the very first human. Well, how do you reproduce then? Because I'm thinking about this, there was no crude oil. That means the world is new, like 10,000 years old compared to Earth 4 billion. Maybe he was the I don't know, like Adam and Eve. I don't know. But I think like something like that. I think the Celestial Worthy is the first transmigrator. We'll see though. I wanna reach volume 2 so quick, man. Might make a really big stream on Sunday. Easy geeky theory. I don't know of any easy geeky theories. Yeah. This made him suspect that there were no hope left for the... Wait. Yeah. There was no hope left for the youth's parents, and that the young man had chosen to give up. With his back facing sunlight, Klein walked to the edge of the bed and laid down. He didn't want to move. He knew that he wouldn't waste any time, head to the mission lab and continue the process of digesting the potion, but he didn't want to move. He laid silently on his bed, enjoying the rare break. He had a full schedule from Tuesday to Friday, mysticism lessons, practicals in the mornings, shooting and combat training in the afternoons. He was mentally exhausted by the time evening came around. There were no change in the morning routine on Saturday, but he had to guard Chinese Gate in the afternoon. He would have stayed underground until the dawn of Sunday. Damn! Sunday morning was time for Klein to catch up on sleep. In the afternoon, circumstances will determine if he went to the divination club. On Monday morning, he had just returned from Korea University in the morning and had the tarot gathering in the afternoon. He also had to think about the issue of acting as a seer. In other words, he had been busy the entire week with no time to rest. Damn! Thus, all Klein wanted to do was laze around, lying on his bed like a loser, not doing anything except daydreaming. Sometimes it's nice to daydream like that. Also, what is this spoiler? No, spoiled! Susie's the original creator. What? That's a huge spoiler, guys. No, how can a boss of a cult be worthless? If Miss Justice and Mr. Hangman caught wind of this, their impression of me will shatter. Klein buried his face into his blanket and motivated himself. I have the formula for the clown potion. All I need to do is fully digest the seer potion. I have the formula of the clown potion. All I need to do is fully digest the seer potion. He muttered to himself repeatedly, and then propped himself up. Yeah, Mords, what the fuck? Permanent ban him. I'm joking. Kinda funny though. He muttered to himself repeatedly and then propped himself up. Klein took a bronze coin from his pocket and quickly divined if it was suitable for him to head to the club today and got a definite response. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. After the countdown, he forced himself to stand up straight and walked over the clothes rack before picking out his student hat. In the meeting room of the Divination Club on Howe Street, Klein sat down in the shadowed corner and sipped on his Siba black tea as he read the Dingen City Honest paper. There were many members around him, just 6 or 7. Weren't many members around him, just 6 or 7. Fucking... what's his name? Hopeland or Taku? Sorry, Hopeland getting 3 bullets. I'm sorry. Klein, sit down. Yeah, that says he was laughing at the grammatical mistake used in job advertisement. He saw a monocle glacis. Bro is following the fashion trend. Walking with a silk top hand in his hand, there was a blue-dressed lady in her 30s beside him. I can't believe so many people are doing the monocle emote in chat and Discord because of glacis, by the way. Jeez. 6 or 7! 6, 7, I missed that. Holy shit. In the lady... blue-dressed lady in her 30s. Megoose? Wait, let me blow my nose. Is she pregnant? Lady had curved eyebrows, large yet dull eyes. In her left hand she was carrying an Intis hat decorated with the feathers of a black swan. That hat is ridiculous. Won't her neck be more wearing that? Won't her neck be sore wearing that? Klein nodded to himself. He looked over and massaged his glabella as if alleviating his fatigue. Through his spirit vision, he noticed that Glacis and the lady were both healthy, but were anxious, angry, and flustered. Good afternoon, Glacis. Mr. Lanevus wasn't trustworthy fellow, was he? Klein asked with a smile, remaining seated. Oh, because of the investment opportunity. I still don't get the monocle meme. It's because of Glacis. I think Glacis wears the monocle. And it's like, in one of the tributes it says it's a fashion trend. Yeah. Glacis had asked him for divination about investing in Lanevus Steel Company. Glacis had obtained a negative suggestion, but noticing his indecisiveness, Klein believed he had taken the risk anyway. Klein hoped that man hadn't invested everything he had. Thus, Klein immediately made association and judgment when he saw the colors of his emotion. Glacis froze for a moment, then let out a bitter smile. I truly regret not listening to the suggestion you divined for me. What a loser, by the way. Eh, this is the second time I'm saying something like that. Let's hope so. No, I believe that there will be a third time. He turned his head and looked at the lady with some wrinkles. Madam Christina. Oh, Christina, look at Mr. Morty had already guessed our motive for coming here, without us even speaking. He's the most magical fortune teller I have ever seen. I'm more than willing to describe him as a seer. Good afternoon, Mr. Moretti. We have come here precisely because of Lanevus. Christina gave a simple bow, clearing anxious and flustered. So Christina was the friend of Magus, remember that? I think. Shall we head to Topaz? Glacis was more collected. He pointed at the door on the meeting room with his chin. Klein laughed as he got up. This is the job of fortune teller. He followed the path to empty Topaz room. Glacis locked the wooden door and walked to his seat while sighing. Lanevus has gone missing. He gave the excuse of going to Silvius County to oversee the excavation and left Ingen, never to return. We sent someone to look for him via steam locomotive and discovered that the large-scale steel mine he spoke of only existed on the map. Luckily for me, I recalled your advice and only invested a third of what I initially intended to invest. Otherwise, I would have lost my family and my life. Jesus, dude! And so third, I mean, thankfully you did not fuck up that much. Klein's pupils were darker than usual. Then he looked at the two people in the front of him. He asked, a little curious, before making such a major and financial decision, won't you choose a representative and ascertain if whatever he said was true at the Hornazis mountain range in the Silvius County? Sina responded quickly. Our representative was fooled by the people Lanevus employed. The place he rented and the land was fenced off. Stream is lagging. Lagging? Lagging? Test. Delay should be 5 to 10 seconds max, guys. If there's delay, refresh and then double speed to catch up. I'll be right back, guys. 1 second. I'm muted. Christina responds quickly. Our representative was fooled by the people of Lanevus, employed the place he rented, and the land was fenced off. Clan didn't question them any further. He maintained his attitude of a seer and asked, "What do you wish to find today?" "We wish to see if this is salvageable or not," Christina said as he looked at places. I took a piece of paper and fountain pen. "Let us to an astrolabe divination. I'll ask and you'll answer." Between the questions, Klein marked out the thunder with constellation and the corresponding symbols of various situations before completing the astrolabe. He used more elements in his astrolabe than any ordinary person would have. The method he was going to use to interpret the astrolabe was going to bring him closer to the truth. Madam, sir, you're now at crossroad. If you don't restrain yourself and succumb to your greed and anxiety, you will fall further into the abyss, never being able to free yourselves. But if you can be patient and wait precisely without being greedy, then persistently without being greedy, then there will be an opportunity of you seeing the sunlight, Klein said with his tone unhurried. That's very vague. What the fuck? I understand, Christina nodded. She thought for a moment before saying, "Mr. Moretti, can you divine Lanevus' whereabouts?" You remember Merlin? No, I don't think so. The information Lana was left by is most likely fake. Even his name might not be real. How can I divine anything unless you can give me a very specific details or item he carries with him all the time? Merlin replied truthfully. Christina fell silent for a moment before pushing one solid note towards Klein. "I have heard from places that you are a true seer, who is respectful and fearful of fate and not greedy for money. You can think of the rest of as tips as I'm giving to the club. Thank you for your confidence in me." She stood up and bade farewell before leaving quickly. "Not greedy for money, no, I am a materialistic man." Klein was regretting his actions of acting as a charlatan. Seeing Christina leave, Glacius closed the door and asked, "Is there really no way?" "I told you, the way you just now." Klein smiled as he leaned back. Glacius sighed. Anna was struck off with over 10,000 pounds and his victims totaled over 100 people. Luckily for me, I only lost 50. 50? Wow. You invested a lot. Those are my savings and I have no debt, but Miss Christina invested 150 pounds. To her, this is not a sum that she can bear easily. "Have you called the police?" Klein suddenly felt anger toward the sheet after hearing the sum of 10,000 pounds. Low-key, one of the goats? Yeah, bro. Low-key. Pro swindler? Funny. One could be considered a rich even in Paklon with money like that. I don't know if the police would enlist in the help of Nighthawks, managed punishers, or machinery high mind for a simple case like this. Klein thought a little distracted. Glacius nodded and said, "We already made the police report. The police are paying a lot of attention to the case. After much discussion, they're willing to take out a portion of the money we will get back as a reward. We want to get them 10 pounds as a reward if they manage to provide clues about Lanevus' whereabouts. We can give a precise location and help the police catch Lanevus. You can get a reward of 100 pounds. Okay, so Klein is gonna lock in now, I think. 10 pounds for a clue, 100 pounds for catching Lanevus. Klein's eyes nearly sparkled after he heard that. His breathing became heavy. Holy shit! He happened to be worrying about how he was going to pay the detective in the future. He could barely afford the second phase of the payment with extra salary of 3 pounds he received this week. But if the private investigator managed to complete his mission within the next week, then he won't have enough to pay off whatever he promised to pay. He would be lacking a few solely, provided that he will need to spend the savings elsewhere this week. Perhaps the police will have some items belonging to Lanevus, but they won't be very useful if you are left laying, and Klein felt a mixture of excitement and disappointment. The next hour and a half, Klein got another 2 customers to Angelica's recommendation. Once was divination for a 1-year-old toddler. Oh my god, okay. Klein immediately drew the corresponding birth astrolabe and explained it much to the satisfaction of the customer. The other was searching for an item. Klein used tarot reading coupled with dream divination to give him a general area. So he's getting a lot of clients. This made his customer very shocked, for he had never seen a fortune teller that could give him such an accurate information. Perhaps he could obtain enough funds just by doing divinations for others. Klein, who had received some tips, put on his hat, held his cane and walked toward the exit of the club. At this moment he saw Christina enter the club once again with a young girl wearing a sun hat beside her. "Ooh, my goose!" Lina saw Klein and immediately approached him. She asked softly, "Mr. Moretti, you say that you could try divining Lanevus' whereabouts if there was something belonging to him." "That is correct, correct, Klein on it. Christina heaved a sigh of relief and asked a serious joke. Then is his child something that belongs to him? Huh? Klein was momentarily a little lost. See, I told you Christina was with Megoose. I remember Christina from donghua. Wow. It's Megoose. Lana was his child. Let's read more about it then. Let's see how it's done in a novel. Christina didn't notice the serious blank look. She took a peek at Angelica over at the reception desk, lowered her voice and said, I mean, Lana was child. She extended her hand to point at the young lady with the sunlight and said, this is my niece, Megoose. Her mother is my elder sister. I'm very sorry and regretful that I thought Lanevos was an outstanding young man back then. And I introduced Megoose to Lanevos, who was single. Then they become lovers. Megoose's parents were happy with Lanevos and first you. They planned to pour all their savings to the steel company after they got engaged. Luckily, before that happened, Lanevos ran away. Family didn't encounter any life-threatening losses. Unfortunately, my sister and my brother-in-law have to explain to their relatives and friends why the engagement ceremony will be cancelled, and they have to worry about the child that Megoose is bearing. I think the correct pronunciation is Megoose. Yeah, I know. Megose? Wait, what? Megose? What? Megose? Megose? Megoose. Nope, 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 nope. It's not Megose, it's Megoose. It's Megoose for me. I believe in God of steam machinery. We are not believers of Lord of Storms. We don't believe in a chastity before marriage. Oh, we don't blame Megoose and even pity her. However, the existence of her child does things difficult, especially since he has such a father. He took advantage of people both financially and sexually. I looked towards Megoose, who was standing quietly next to her. He then realized that the lady was quite beauty. Damn. She had a bright forehead, long blonde hair, and pair of big eyes, just like Christina's. She looked repressed yet calm, and her lips were tightly pursed together. Then infuriating swindler. Oh, funny, dude. And even got away successfully. Swindler, eh? You say swindler? Klein cursed Lanevos and said after some thought, if it wasn't a child that is already born, I do have a way to divine Lanevos' whereabouts, using child as an aid, but unfortunately this would require us to wait a few months. As this might be a reflection of divination result earlier, be patient and wait persistent without being greedy, then there will be an opportunity of seeing the sunlight. A few months, Christina mumbled to herself as she shook her head. No, after such a long period of time, even if you find Lanevos, you won't be able to get back our money. She looked sideways at Megoose, her voice lowered unconsciously, and she asked, do you have anything that Lanevos carried around her? No, Megoose answered clearly and gently. Will the ring he gave me count? It must be something that he carried for a very long time. Klein shook his head. Christina remained silent for a while and looked at Megoose when she said, you have to make a decision. You think keeping the child would make your future tough and thorny? Are you going to tell him that his father was a swindler and took away many people's money, including his mother's? Well, abortion is allowed apparently. Time to head to the clinic at the hospital. Plus, this could help us find Lanevos to get what we lost. Hey, isn't that determination a little hardcore? It was not Klein's place to involve himself in the family matters of others, so he could only wait patiently by the side as he lampooned inwardly from time to time. Come on, Spirit Nation, dude! Spirit Vision, sorry, not Nation, what the fuck? Megoose lowered her head and looked down. She didn't speak for quite a while. Then she touched her stomach and revealed a gentle smile. He is different from his father. He will be considerate and likable child. He will kick me lightly every day, telling me his mood. He will even hum a song, whistle, and use music to help me sleep. I heard and suddenly felt something amiss. The former part of the Megoose said seemed to be normal, but the latter part was like the ravings of a mad woman. Did she have a mental problem to their incident? Klein raised his right hand to Clabella. He pretended to massage to ease his weariness. Just then Megoose suddenly turned around and walked toward the door, leaving only one sentence. Maybe his father will come back in secret after he's born, keeping a part of the money for his child. Damn. What did Luke say? Oh. Really? I never expected she would respond like that, and he was momentarily taken aback that he forgot to activate his pet vision. Then he watched helplessly as Goose left the club and walked down the stairs. What if Klein actually noticed at this point, by the way? Sheesh. Justina let out a sigh and said, "Sorry, Mr. Moretti, sorry to bother you. We'll look for one of Flavenus's personal items that he carried with him all the time." I nodded indescribably. He watched her walk downstairs and sighed as he shook his head. The next morning, Klein entered Blackthorn Security Company and greeted Roseanne and asked, "Where's today's newspaper?" The sweet brown-haired girl Roseanne sized him up and said, puzzled, "Klein, you're so weird." "Why?" asked Klein in reply, smiling. Roseanne rolled her eyes and said, "You always read the newspaper during noon break because you have mysticism lessons in the morning. All Neil are already waiting for you in the armory. I found out earlier that there will be a case offering a reward, so I want to read a newspaper to memorize the criminal's appearance. Perhaps I might one day come across that person," Klein explained with a smile. "Is that so?" Roseanne picked up the day's newspaper and off-center. "Is that so?" Rosanna picked up today's newspaper and started flipping through them out of curiosity. "Wanted, Lanevus, alright." I immediately answered yes. "Wicked swindler! He stole about 10,000 pounds, Roseanne read carefully for nearly 20 seconds before cursing. I think it's really ironic how he was doing acting there, by the way. He's actually a swindler. And shared the same feeling. "It's really ridiculous. Even I want to apply to take over the case." Roseanne continued to read and shook her head regretfully. "The case didn't seem to involve the supernatural factors. Even if it did, it would be passed on to mandate punishers under the Lord of Storms." I didn't quite understand what Roseanne meant, but after he took the newspaper and read it, he sighed. "Yeah, there were so many people cheated. There must be believers from all three major churches. An unable steelwork company was said to be located in the south. If a case was related to supernatural factors and involved only the believer of one god, it will be passed to the corresponding team. However, if it involved believers of the Nevernight Goddess, Lord of Storms, and the God of Steamery and Machinery, it would be assigned based on jurisdiction area. The Nighthawks controlled the Golden Indus Borough, the North Borough, and the West Borough. The Mandate Punishers controlled the East Borough, South Borough, and the Port. But the Machinery Highmine Troop was responsible for the university and suburb areas. As he flipped through the newspaper, Klein memorized Lanevus' appearance. He had plump forehead, black hair, black hair, brown eyes, and pair of spectacles with almost round lenses. One monocle, looking as though he was mocking everyone. Besides the pair of spectacles, Lanevus didn't seem to have any obvious traits and looked really ordinary. He chatted up with Roseanne casually, then passed through the partition in preparations to head underground. Then he saw the pale and cold corpse of the fry, the white-haired, black-eyed outer Zika, Tron exiting the recreation room and turning towards him. After a simple greeting, Klein watched his duo teammates leave and discovered Don Smith in black trench coat as standing by the side of the door he opened. "There's a case?" Klein asked curiously. At the time of day, there won't be two Nighthawks heading out together for no reason. $1 million, basically, yeah. Don looked over with his grey eyes. He nodded and smiled. "There seems to be a paranormal incident in West Borough. I've sent Zika and Fry to check on it, but you don't have to worry about that until you master combat techniques. I don't intend to send you any missions. I have to take responsibility for my team members." "Okay, West Borough. Captain, are you sure? You're such a nice person. Besides the receding hairline and bad memory, you are flawless." Klein complimented inwardly. He asked for confirmation. "In other words, I only need to attend mysticism classes and combat training. I don't have to contribute anything and I can still get my pay." "It's only temporary," Don confirmed. I only need to attend classes and work out and I get an ample paycheck. It's great just thinking about it," Klein thought happily. "I hope there are no more coincidences." He prayed in silence. The days passed by peacefully until Friday. Klein completed his combat training and took a carriage back to Pesic Street. Outside Henry's private detective company, he looked to the left and to the right, confirmed that no one was watching him. He put on a gauze mask, lifted up the collar of his trench coat, and quickly entered the stairway. Knocking on the door, Klein saw a middle-aged brawny man, Detective Henry, again. "Not bitch. Good afternoon, sir. One of the cases that you entrusted with us is done." The deep blue-eyed Detective Henry spoke with hoarse voice from drinking and smoking. Line intention lowered his voice. Oh, it's the private detective, not yeah. Sorry. Which one is done? Klein eventually lowered his voice and said, "Is the information of the man that appeared at the Evil Dragon Bar? The man that brought the spectator potion supplementary ingredients?" Yes, Henry waved his smoking bike. I like Henry, yeah. I for a second I forgot Pitch was a official police officer, not an undercover detective. Yes, Henry waved his smoking bike. Then he didn't say anything but looked at Klein with a smile. Klein understood what the man meant and he took out a 4-pound, 1-pound note and handed over. 4 1-pound notes and handed over. The second payment, he paused and added, "Write me a receipt." His private stash of money had been reduced to less than 1 pound. "No problem," Henry coughed. He checked the anti-counterfeiting marks on the notes as he instructed his staff to bring over the pen and paper. Then he beckoned to Klein for him to have a seat while he quickly wrote a receipt and stamped a seal on the bottom. After completing everything, Henry took a puff at his pipe and said, "According to your description, my assistant and I were at the Evil Dragon Bar for 3 days before finally meeting that man. He's quite an alert gentleman and is good at observation. Thankfully, we're experienced. His name is Daxter Gardarian, a doctor of the Green Hill Mental Asylum." Daxter? A new name? Okay, so that person is probably a Beyonder, right? He's super observant. He was buying potion ingredients for Spectator, so he knows what's up. Maybe he's not as Beyonder yet, but he knows the existence of potions and stuff like that. So, a clue. Also, we had Lanevus being a swindler. Mekus, first contact with Mekus. And yeah. Anyway. 117. We are gonna continue on 17 on Sunday. I'm gonna try to do a longer stream on Sunday. Gonna get up to at least 130, I'm thinking. So 13 chapters on Sunday, which will take like 4 hours, 4.5 hours, or 5 hours, something like that. So yeah, I will leave you then. Baxter something. I wonder. Mental asylum as well. Probably a Beyonder. Anyway, see you guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the rupees, by the way. I'll fix it